Okay, so this is Jane. Jane, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
So I'm Jane. I'm a first year undergraduate at King's College, and I'm studying international relations. And right now, I'm in Luxembourg. Uh,
Okay. And we're both, for anybody listening that's not from King's or doesn't hasn't heard about Strand before, we're both King's College London students. Jane, I don't know, sorry, did you mention that you're studying international relations?
I think I did.
Oh, okay, sorry, my bad. Jane's studying international relations. I'm studying German history, and yeah, we both are engaged in Strand magazine. So if you haven't heard of it yet, you should definitely check it out. Um, and yeah, we'll be talking about Jane's article called "Hidden Albums: A Letter to Nostalgia," and it there's a lot to unpack, I think, with nostalgia because it's definitely a topic that isn't you don't really think that there's much to talk about, but actually it's this
Yeah.
kind of feeling that I think you can see in politics and in just the theme of this December issue is digitalization. And I think as your article shows, there's so much um it has had such an impact on how we relate with our memories and all these different things. So I think for starters, it would be good for you to read out the article so that people have more of an idea of what it's about.
Sure.
So
Hidden Albums: A Letter to Nostalgia. Okay. One evening, after returning to my hometown at the onset of the second lockdown, my father discovered that he could play YouTube on the TVs upstairs. He played randomly the live concert of the Nationals in front of the Sydney Opera House in 2016. It clicked when I heard again the songs I used to know by heart. I was brought back to the slow and foggy mornings in my mother's car on the journey to school. My brother in the back, our stuff at our feet. For about 5 years we crossed the forest on their sweet melodies, slowly waking up and preparing us for the school days. The evening when we watched together on that luminescent blue square, the person that filmed and posted that video brought back so many memories I thought were so insignificant, yet so representative of a period of my life. Technology isn't a matter of the future anymore. It can connect us to our personal past, but also to the historical ties that bind us all. Technological souvenirs are keepsakes can bring back memories like a bittersweet digitalized Proust Madeleine. The digital age we're living in can be demonized as much as we want. The addiction to the social medias, the fake news that confuse us, the digitalization that steals our personal data, and the insidious breach into our privacy. Technology can be tricky. We can easily fall into perverse traps if we're not careful. We can be manipulated by bright screens and toxic messages in caps. Searching for what is important and what matters in all this wide and unknown environment can be tough and challenging. So don't look for it and let it find you and surprise you. In the infinity of the cloud and internet, there are time capsules buried, lost, and waiting for someone to unearth them. They are the old CDs and DVDs of the movies your father took on the day of your 7th birthday or your brother's first Christmas. They are the YouTube algorithm suggesting your mother's favorite song. They are the recipe of your childhood, found on the predicted Google search bar, or Snapchat reminding you of your first kiss. Don't judge those who try to capture every moment of their lives. Don't be angry when they want to take your picture. Don't close your eyes when they try to catch your smile. Because when you look through someone's photos, you'll see what they are most afraid of losing. Inevitably, if 2020 taught me something, is that everything can change in the blink of an eye. Even what we thought could last forever. Every summer, I go to my grandparents' house by the sea, with all my cousins, aunts, and uncles. Every summer, we find a couple of days to stay together. These days are the one I cherish the most, although I never made a movie of them, or a small clip, because I assumed it would be the same next year. Embrace the compulsion to collect those memories, because afterwards you can watch them forever, until your eyes burn, until the melancholy embodies you, until it warms your heart like milk and honey, until remember that you exist, you matter, you're loved, and you love. And if you're not convinced, watch an old person rediscovering their photographs, or watch someone looking at their vacation pictures for the first time. My grandfather digitalized all his old films, invited his friends over, and where they spent the entire evening, accompanied by a bottle of wine to watch every single one of them and reminisce of the story behind each slide. And time stops. Today, yesterday, and the last decades are blurred and mixed, and just like that, technology has no time period. It becomes frameless and can reach moments we thought were gone. Colorize historical photography, scan old films, and digitalize letter and correspondence, bring them back to life, and allow them a second chance to be loved and remembered. As long as they don't turn into dust, it doesn't let the story die and fade away. It is proof that us, normal people that didn't make it into the history books, will be alive forever. As soon as someone digs out a time capsule, even when we will be gone, our digitalized footprint will be somewhere, ready to tell our stories.
Okay, thank you, man. Like every time, like I kept rereading it, and it gave me like chills.
Thank you.
Um, I'm such a sentimental person, and I think and a lot of people are, and I think anybody reading this can like relate to this. Um, so what is like, because I feel like nostalgia means different things for different people. So what is nostalgia like to you? What is what how would you define it? What does it mean? And like what do you think is it?
For me, nostalgia is something I feel a lot, but I wouldn't have a precise definition of it because it's a feeling, it's a mood when you watch old pictures and you think of the past in a good or in a bad way, and you kind of regret that past, but not so much. So, like when you have regret, but you're still glad it happened and glad that you move forward, even if it's good or bad. I think that would be it. So, yeah. I went
Yeah,
through my pictures like all the time. I have like loads of pictures in my wall everywhere. So, yeah.
yes, I can definitely relate. Like I think it's the only thing that like I think maybe I've noticed recently is that I've been clinging onto these photos so much, like maybe too much.
Yeah.
So um that's one aspect that definitely we should talk about. But first, I wanted to like comment on a little thing. Um, you were talking about how you kind of mentioned like about the historical significance of a photo, for example, and kind of on the topic of digitalization. Um, I don't know. I find it really interesting that if people back then, let's say like in the 50s or 40s, and when they're taking a photo, I don't think like they realize what kind of significance that photo could
Yeah.
have, because in that time it was a completely different relationship towards like photo and just information in general, obviously. Don't you think that people taking photos now, you already know what kind of significance that could have, and like that how many people could access it, what it could say about you, what it could say about if it's a political kind of thing, what it could say about the political situation, like and you can obviously manipulate all these things. So what do you like? Do you think that like do you agree that it's maybe like a downside?
Yeah, probably, but it's not in the action of taking a picture, is what interpretation you give it to it and in what context you give it to the public. Because like a raw picture is like it's the fact, it's what happened, but you can manipulate the picture, its context, and it depends which interpretation the public will remember, I guess, because we have like lots of like photographer reporters during the war with controversial when you don't have all the information. Mm, but yeah, I think it's not the action of taking a picture, is what you do after it that is a downside maybe sometimes.
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite photo from a favorite period, like because I know if you study international relations, I'm guessing you're probably interested in history as well. Do you have like a favorite period in history where like you can feel that you're like the photos from that period interest you the most, you know?
Um, so I'm half French and half Vietnamese, and I'm really interested into the Vietnam War. And those pictures were highly controversial, and it's one of the first war with the media, the public opinion, and I found it so interesting the stories behind those photos were mostly there. Those pictures for the Vietnam War, they used to like shock the public, but the stories behind it were not tell, I think. And yeah, I think this is really a case when you can see all the different interpretation of the photos. And yeah, I think it's very interesting. But it's like, you see, it's dangerous. Like, you understand that if you don't know all the information, that could be easily be confusing. So yeah, I find
Yeah.
it interesting.
Do you think that it's kind of different how, you know, I hate saying that word, like the youth or like I guess younger people interact with photos now as opposed to, you know, like in the 60s? Because in the 60s there was all these social protests and, you know, and a lot of them were related to the Vietnam War. And because of like, you know, the start of digitalization and the start of media, um, do you think that there's like a difference between like how because now it's kind of a given, you know? Before I feel like it was a shock, but now it's a given that we just see everything.
I think that now is just like it's like for everybody. Everybody can take a picture that can be on the front page of the newspapers and stuff. Before the war, the like proper people where their job was to take pictures of what happened, and now I feel that with our smartphone, you can take pictures and then say what you want about it. So I think that the thing is like more people can do it. Like everyday people can do that and
Yeah,
shed.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that we always carry, like, you're always, it's kind of obvious, you know, and we know this, but you're always carrying a camera, you know, and
Yeah,
there's so much power in that.
I think, yeah, it's true. And I think that we tend to forget that, like for the worst or the better, like you have cases when pictures are taken without any approval and that could damage a person's life. And yeah, I don't think we realize the power that we have to have a camera in our pocket. Like you can take a picture, send it to everyone, send it to the world, and yeah, change things for good or for bad. So yeah.
Actually, like, you know, one thing that actually I feel like, um, the fact that we're able to take a photo of everything, and, you know, for example, like when I look through all my old photos just on my phone, not even like in the albums or anything, I I look at the different photos and I realize, okay, well, these are the memories I made in that moment. But I worry now that, you know, what about the photos, the moments that you didn't take a picture of, or the moments that you didn't take a video of, you know? Do you think that, because I feel like we are, but do you think that we are more prone to forget about the memories that we don't capture, you know?
I don't think so. Well, I don't. I don't know, but I don't know. I feel that yeah, sure, but it's life. I mean, like you forget moments ultimately, and you. I feel that we do not need to fear that because it happens, and if you didn't take a picture, that means that maybe it was not that important. or it was so important that you didn't feel like you need to take a picture to remember it.
And in that case, you remember it anyway without a photo, if it's like that good, right?
And like the photo is like it's like a plus, a bonus.
Yeah.
I think we should see photos like we just took them in the moment and that's good. But if we don't take them, it's the moment happened. So like we remember it and it's good. And like, yeah, it's sad we didn't have picture, but I have so many moments I didn't have my camera, like not my phone, but my real proper camera.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, well, like for one holiday, we went to Sicily and we lost all the pictures, like everything. That was
No.
sad, but at the end of the day, I remember what I really wanted to remember, which is maybe not the landscapes, but I remember that I had a terrific holiday with my parents and my brother. That was so cool and that was so beautiful. And yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Memories make themselves in some sense.
Yeah.
Um, like there was I lost my like my oh my God, my phone once broke off broke off completely. I lost all my photos, but the day before, um, I put them all on like Google Photos, and it was like sheer luck. It was complete coincidence. But for some reason, it didn't download all the photos from 2014 to 2015. And what I find really interesting is that like when I look through my photos, and sometimes like my friend will send me a photo from 2014, and I was like 14, 13 then. Um, I would I would be like, oh my God, I completely forgot about myself in that version. Like I completely forgot that I existed like that. And the thing is, like, part of me is like, okay, I'm kind of thankful for that because those are like the cringy years. Those were like the really bad ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, like as you said, like with Snapchat as well, it's I don't know if you feel the same way, but for some reason, sometimes I get the photos and I don't really want to remember something. Like, and I don't mean that in like a deep, depressing way. I just mean that like, man, like from when I was 14, I've grown so much, and all these memories, it's just like a constant like, oh my God, so frustrating to like see that,
Yeah. Yeah, I think I get like with, people that you met and you're not really talking to them now, but you were close before. And I think that's the thing with nostalgia. You can't keep every good memories. There's the good, the bad, and the sad, the happy, the really dark moments, but the joy, and you have to deal with it. And I think that nostalgia embodies this mess of emotions. And yeah, you can't be nostalgic and happy all the time. I don't think that happiness is a good definition for nostalgia because, like, yeah,
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely like in some ways a way to deal with, like sadness because, a lot of moments I think and people that you meet, um, I hate to say this and I hate to say that I saw this, but I saw it on TikTok, this like thing. And God, I'm really embarrassing myself here. But it was just saying that, not everybody's meant to be not everything is meant to be a relationship. Not everything is meant to be like a happy moment even. Things can just be just whether the key things can just be like what they are in a moment. The people you meet, like they don't have to turn into things that benefit you in the long term. Like it can just be like a certain thing that you had in a moment. And I don't mean this just romantically, but
no, yeah,
with
sure.
like friends and with just people you meet on the street.
Yeah. But like I heard like a girl, she was saying that she needed to learn, and I think I need to learn that also. But I think I made progress, like to let people go and that be thankful for the moment that happened with them, and like learn to say goodbye. And that's not a bad thing to say goodbye because you spend time with them, and during that time you grow, you have fun, like you need to like say goodbye. And that's a very hard thing for me because I say we're like sentimental, so we look at pictures again and we reminisce the time together, but
Yeah.
it's a part of the process to say goodbye, I think.
Do you feel like you because if it's your first year in uni, going from high school to uni, to me that was one of the biggest changes ever. And I feel like probably I don't know, I assume maybe for you as well. Like, do you think that you had to deal with a lot of that kind of change?
I think that I dealt with a different kind of change because so my final exams were cancelled, graduation was cancelled, prom was cancelled, summer was so weird, and
Oh
fresher
no.
didn't exist, and I never went on campus. I was in my room. I went like 2 months in London, and then second lockdown was announced, so I had to go back home. And I think there's no we like I say we for like the general, well, like my year. I think there's a general feeling of lack of closure from our high school years and uni. And yeah, that was not nostalgia. That was even weirder. Like, I mean, like right now I'm doing an essay for history for like uni, and I'm still in my high school and middle school room. That's a weird feeling, and like the fact that you can't go forward.
Yeah, I
it,
know.
it's weird.
I I obviously can't understand what it's like finishing high school like that, because man, I really feel for you. Like like we're all here complaining, and obviously there's a lot more worse situations with there's a lot of bad stuff happening with it, but it's definitely it's definitely gonna have an impact on you.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand what you mean about, like, coming back to your high school room, because my room, for example, like, you know it's like all blue, photos everywhere, album covers, everything. And it's just like, when I left, I just left it. I was just like, that's it, that's my shrine. And then when I come back, I'm gonna visit it, and I'm gonna be back to my, like, you know safe place, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know I don't know, I think at least now, like, letting go of that nostalgia, because that's what I meant when I was talking about, like, the negative aspects. Like, I feel like it's so important not to dwell in it,
Yeah.
because sometimes I go in and, like, I remember the 5 months I spent here. I'm like in Azerbaijan right now. So the 5 months I spent in that room, I was kind of going back to even my 14-year-old self, honestly. I was just like, it was a downward spiral.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. I totally get that. Like when I came, like I did 2 month top in London, but like I had to do like so much things I never did, like adult stuff. And then I come back in my room and I feel that I grew so much. And that was like that the first time I came back to my room, even though it was like only 2 months, I felt so weird and I need to move forward, and do not let my like be stuck in my high school and middle school room. And I had to change things. Like I had a closet here and I removed it, but I'm still, like there's pictures everywhere. There's things that yeah I did when I was 12 years old. I'm just like there's like a thing I'm hiding it because I don't find it cool. But like before that I had the closet, it was fine, but I removed them and I need to remove those too.
No,
So
it's cute. I mean, you know, that's honestly one of the reasons why I even came back for second year to London, because I just came back for Christmas holidays, but um I came back to London. My parents were like, they're like, fine, I guess. Like, there's no reason. I was like, no, there is a reason. I promise you. If I stay here, like, neither of us are gonna bear each other, because I'm just gonna go back to my high school self.
yeah.
Um, so it's crazy, look at how much, like, your environment and just like photos, like,
Yeah.
around you can impact you, like, mentally, and not in a, I don't mean that like in a bad way, just like, your state of mind.
So that was the second evening in London. So I was totally alone for the first time in my life. I made dinner for the second time in my life, like just for myself, not for my brother, just for me. And I put it like pictures on the wall of family's friend, and I was like myself alone with my little my pasta and stuff dinner, and I was right watching at my pictures. That was not a good idea.
I
So
know. Oh, man.
yeah.
I've started replacing, like, I just put childhood photos where like I'm a baby, so I don't have too much, like that kind of attachment to it,
Yeah.
and replacing like history posters. So now I just have a bunch of like actually I have like a um Vietnamese like anti-imperial propaganda poster.
That's so cool.
I was gonna ask you, what to you was like, 'cause, with like Snapchat memories, there's the old friends part, there's like the exes part, and then there's the partying. I don't know if maybe you didn't party so much in high school, but what to you is like the best to see, and what to you is like the worst, do you think? Like when you get like the Snapchat memories.
Uh, the worst is people I don't talk to anymore, or like people we just like drift apart. That's sad. I'm very sad when I see those. But or like yeah, or like things I miss, like Vietnam. I really want to go back to Vietnam or to my grandparents in France, and I know that I will need to wait a little bit more. So that's
Yeah.
sad. But I'm happy to see sometimes like like oh, like 3 years ago, we had this afternoon, we had coffee, and that was so fun. And like, I have a picture, like a silly picture of my coffee, and just like, it's very like, I don't know the word, but like very like basic. Like, it's not an interesting picture. There's nobody. There's just my coffee. But that was a pretty coffee, And I
Mhm.
remember that I spent the afternoon with my friends. So yeah, that was great. So those little pictures of like random mundane stuff, I like. I like those.
Yeah, my friend once told me that if you remember one specific thing about whatever it is you're doing, like just like one thing but in detail,
Yeah.
then you remember the whole thing. And
Yeah.
it's like, if year after year, it's like now I'm just like seeing, okay, 2 years ago today, this photo. And then I remember looking back last year on this photo, it was 1 year ago. And they pile up, obviously. But now I remember like all those tiny little in detail aspects, and I'm just like remembering everything from those moments. So it is good.
Or like it's like I like the fact that sometimes it's like little surprise, like you don't even remember that happened. Like that happened, but not this specific day. And like I have a friend, but she's not like she's in France, so we don't really see much of each other. But we talk every day, and sometimes like there's like a memory popping in. It's like, oh, we were together at that time. Oh, that's nice. And like surprises, and just like sometimes it just make your day because like you remember stuff like good,
Yeah.
not the bad ones. The bad ones are really not cool, but
It's also a nice way to reconnect.
yeah.
What I do is like a lot of times, like if I get a Snapchat memory and it's like with a person I haven't spoken to like maybe in 2-3 months, I'll just send them the Snapchat memory of like, hey, by the way, this happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
um One other thing, in your article you said this thing, like, it just hit me, and it was in the very beginning, so I was just like, okay, I gotta keep reading this. um Forests on their sweet melodies. So when you're driving in a car and you see like a bunch of trees, for some reason. So I grew up in Germany, and there's a lot of, it's obviously a lot of nature there, a lot of greens. And on my way to school, I was always passing by this park called Eilenriede. And I feel like when you're driving around and you are just surrounded by nature in general, I kind of personally I feel more nostalgic for some reason. And I was thinking about it, and I don't know, maybe do you think it's because we're less around screens? Like, do you think like because obviously there's the aspect that screens are what cause nostalgia, but also um I think when I'm like away from screen time, personally, I can really dig into the memories separate from who I am today and just like think about the memories on their own, like, not as me looking at them through a screen as who I am now, but really like reliving those moments. And for some reason, around nature is when it just happens better.
I think you like, like these German romantics, poet and stuff that just look to the nature and just like wander. I think this is exactly what happens. Like there's nature, there's the trees. Me, it's like when I'm at the sea, just watching the sea, the waves going. I'm just like thinking of stuff, but I'm thinking, I'm not looking at my phones. And like, it's just like, yeah, I totally understand you, but I think it's more like, we are romantics, I think. Like,
Definitely.
so like we watch nature and just like all the memories and all the stuff, and I think that nature has a power for us to reflect on memories that's different when you actually see the memory, so on a picture or a film, because you can reflect more deeply, I feel.
Yeah,
Like it's you and your
definitely.
thought, you, your thoughts, and nature, and yeah, no, like nature is not judging you, so you're just like letting all the thing and thinking, what if I did that, or what if I choose that, or what happened if it was different, and you can just wonder. And I think, yeah, nature can help us to reflect differently than if we see the actual thing.
Yeah. Do you like do you draw? Do you do anything art like do you do anything artistic? Because I feel like for people who are overly sentimental and just, maybe a bit too too romantic, romanticizing everything. Um, One good outlet that me and my friend have always like we've discovered, is to like she hosts these things every Thursday night, she will invite all her friends over. She'll put on some music and we just like sit and draw in silence. And she just invites different like types of people, and it's really like a great idea. Like I love it because you get people like she's getting people to draw that never usually draw. But for me, I just use it as like kind of letting out all like the sentimental kind of things building up in me. So do you have a kind of outlet for that or?
I used to draw a little bit. Like, I thought it was funny. Like, I thought I was, but I was like copying. That's not good. But that was only for myself. That was like taking thing I liked and like try to do it again. But I didn't really express myself through drawings. I write. Like,
Oh yeah.
I have like little words. Like, it's very messy, but I keep them, and that reminds me of a certain time. Like, I have this notebook which I start in 2017, so I was like 15, I think. Yeah, I was 15. And like there's some stuff that's not really good. There's stuff I like, other I don't anymore. But I remember in what mood I was when I wrote it. And I have stuff like just, it's just thoughts, but it's selective thoughts because I only like completed one, even not like 1/4 of it. Wait, so it's very, I select the memories. So yeah, but also I read a lot, and I remember what book I read. Like if I see the book, I remember when it was and in what mood I was. If
Yeah.
like, and I did like a big like thing. I gave up books, and I saw again the books I read like when I was 14. Like really bad stories, but I really liked them. And I was like, yeah, that's representative of a period of my life. So yeah, I'm very also a materialist. Taking mugs everywhere I go, taking little souvenir.
Yes, definitely. That's like I'm definitely a hoarder and like I'm gonna be one of those crazy people who has like what's it called? Like collects really unnecessary things when I'm old, I have like a collection of tickets and I used to have them like I don't, they're like from I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years, and it's just a pile of tickets from everything, and
Yeah.
I used to have them all over on my wall. And one day I was just like, they were just falling apart, like to the point, like there was such a thick layer of them because I
Yeah.
kept sticking them on that I actually once woke up from them falling. That's how loud it was.
No,
So,
I totally get it. I have like
so
tons of postcards because I love sending postcards. I'm just like, yes, keeping the post alive. So I'm sending to all my friends, and every time I take like two same postcards, one for my friend or family, and one for me, so I can put it on the wall. But like I have a few of them because I didn't like look. Sorry, I think you like I have like a wall,
Oh, I love that.
you know.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I have like stuff like people sending me and cards I took for myself with nothing behind it, just for me to put it on the wall. And yeah, I like I'm a really big. It's not good, but yeah. When you're
Wait.
sentimental, you're a big materialist, and you have like you accumulate a lot of things.
Yes. um, but it makes me realize that actually that is kind of how people attach to memories
Yeah.
before, media and like photos, because so we're kind of digging back to the past, like slowly, I feel like. One thing that I wanted to also talk about was how nostalgia would shape history, because so I'm from a post-Soviet country, and I grew up very much influenced by kind of Soviet culture, and there is a very specific Soviet culture that's separate from Russian culture, and obviously each kind of Soviet culture manifests itself differently in each nation that was.
Yeah.
Um, so, and for example, I think about my granddad, who is still quite the typical communist man and everything, and in the best way possible, I promise. Um, but he's always like sending me all these videos of the Soviet Union in the 80s, and there's such a stigma around how the Soviet Union was a horrible place, and if you talk about the 30s, yes, maybe, but and there's always gonna, it wasn't great, obviously, but I think it's just interesting how I think a lot of people now, and like boomer generation maybe, they look at things in like with rose colored glasses. Um, and that is from, I think that comes from nostalgia, There was like a poll that 70% of Russian people were nostalgic for the Soviet Union.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I think it's just, don't you think that I feel like it definitely shapes the way we look at history, because obviously if we're not people from, I guess, I don't know, is it broad to say like the West, like from the Western generic Western side, it's something that you can understand with Soviet Union, but I definitely think that it changes the way people in Russia, at least, or people in Azerbaijan, look at the history of Soviet Union.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. Like, in France, there are people that are nostalgic for the king. Like, they want the monarchy back. They're called the royalists. It's like insane.
Okay, that's a bit far.
Like, there's like a real societies of like aristocratic people, but like that I don't really understand. But I can understand the communist thing. But yeah, I mean, in Vietnam, it's still a communist, and you don't have that nostalgia, I think. So I think I'm not ready to understand yet the nostalgia. I think nostalgia of young people like us and old people that really like went through a lot, like, well, their lives and like with all the events that went with it. I don't think we have the same kind of nostalgia because I mean, like, I think that the way I reflect on COVID, for example, would not be the same now and like in 50 years. I think I will reflect. So I think that it changes. So I don't think I understand yet why old people, this thing when old people, when you get older, you get like more like closed minded and yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I will stay open minded. I really think that, but you never know. You're like because you had experience. Like they have experience. They lived through things that we didn't.
but I
So
mean, I think the things that make people nostalgic, and the things that make nostalgia are kind of very much the aspects of culture. It's the music, it's the clothing, it's the way of talking to each other. It's not, for example, with the Soviet Union, it's not necessarily, the communist regime itself,
yeah,
or It's just everything, like what daily life was. And I'm going through this weird thing where growing up with like Soviet music playing all the time and like, you know, like hearing about all the stories and how it was so much better back then. And I'm just like, now growing up, I was like, was it? But I I'm like a 19-year-old German/Slavic girl who's like nostalgic for the Soviet Union, and I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense, you know? And
Yeah, it's like you were fed with that during your childhood, so it's part of your memories also. So I can understand that, honestly. Like because like it's like stories of things that happen and you hear them again and again and again and you start missing it too when you have nothing to do with it. Like
yeah, and I think it comes to show that just how like I don't know what's the word, like malleable nostalgia is, and like how like the features of nostalgia are, you know,
yeah.
the fact that you can just take the what are your memories, turn them into something beautiful, you know, describe them as something beautiful, and then just plop it onto the next generation, you know. And I think, you know, me and my grandparents, you know, that's one smaller scale, but I feel like now we're like in a larger scale. It's happening. Um, I don't know. Maybe one thing could be. I don't know if you've seen the movie Goodbye Lenin.
No.
Oh,
uh,
you should. It's
yeah.
amazing.
Oh.
But it's basically about the fall of the
Yeah.
Berlin Wall, and you know the experience of like East German people now. You know, Eastern German people. You know, obviously it's one country, but there's still
Yeah.
differences. You know, in some behaviors, and I don't know. I feel like nostalgia towards what was, and obviously it was more separated from Soviet Union than people think, but like the culture, but nostalgia from what it was, you know, you can still see a little bit today.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like when your parents listen to their music. So like people like old people, not old people music, but music from like 20 years ago, and you start to be nostalgic of a period you didn't even live through, you know? I think
Yeah.
it's weird, but it's interesting.
Do you have like a favorite genre, like from like a favorite period of music?
Oh no, my playlist is like a mess. I have like classical music and then I have pop and rap. I have like, French pop, British rap. I have like it's a mess. And I have like old songs and new songs and yeah, everything in between. So yeah, no, I don't have any
Oh,
preference.
okay. Because I definitely understand what you mean about like my mom, for example, always listens to like Italian 80s music, and I'm like, I have no relation to Italy. I'm definitely not from the 80s. But for some reason, I'm just like, yeah, I'm totally like an Italian 80s kid. Like, what are you talking about?
And like you're like when like a singer from the 80s, 90s dies and you're sad about it, even though like okay, you listen to this song because of your parents, but you are not like deeply attached to that singer, but you're still sad. But like it's not your generation. I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like I saw just one last ending little random thing, observation thing, um, is people are getting now like they're starting to romanticize teenagers from 2012 to 2015.
Yeah.
So that's when we were like 13, 14. Like I'm seeing more and more people on like Instagram and like TikTok and stuff like starting to romanticize that, and I'm just like, oh God, how long does it take? Like how like is it really like that quickly that people start to look back on it? Because you know when you are actually a part of that, you know
Yeah.
you realize, hey, no, this was a cringe, like a very cringy time. We don't want to be part of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I think yeah. I think nostalgia is like has no time. Like first it's universal, which I think it's very interesting because everyone is nostalgic like at
Yeah.
some point. And like yeah. But I don't really have an objective view about it because I'm the kind of people who take pictures of everything,
Me too.
but I print the my favorite. I think that's the important thing, that you need to. You can take every picture you want, like 1,000 pictures for a day, but you need at some point to select it, because there's like all these people like complaining that have a lot of pictures and they need to stop taking so much pictures. But I'm not agreeing with them, and just like, no, take every pictures you want, but afterwards just select a few of them and keep the rest somewhere, but select a few of them and print them and put it in an album, or I don't know, do something about them. But don't erase all the pictures, because that's sad.
I
And
know, I couldn't. Yeah,
you will regret it after.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I
Yeah.
think you put it very nicely. Um, okay, I think I don't want to keep you any longer. It's been
I
51 minutes.
yeah, I don't mind. It's a pleasure. I
It
love
was so nice to talk to you,
that.
and I hope that we can keep in touch after this. This was like our first time meeting, so
That's so cool. No, I feel no, for sure. I love meeting new people.
yeah. So next
I
year
love,
you'll have a friend in London, and we'll next year when you come back,
yeah.
first year is always a bit daunting, but if you ever need some advice from a really chaotic, messy second year, I'm here.
You'll take me to your best spots in London. I'll take
For sure.
pictures.
We'll bring our cameras and we'll make it, yeah. So thank you for your time, and
Thank you for like, I don't know. This is my first time my article, like one of the thing I wrote, like is getting either published or someone like wants me to talk about it.
I hope you keep writing, because
Yeah,
honestly, I love your style of writing and everything. So I can't wait to hear more from you. And
sure.
yeah, okay,
Thank you so much.
bye,
Bye.
bye.